welcome, and thank you for being here and being involved. We've got here for you tonight, we're going to be discussing three projects, more specifically, generally in the slides, and then more specifically out of the tables. Here tonight with me, I'm Chad Schulhauser, I'm the city engineer for Bellingham. Eric Johnson, our public works director, is here in the back. We've also got Fritz Anthony and Jessica Bennett, our project engineers with Public Works. Chris Como, our transportation planner, is here. We've also got Andrea Ryder, communication outreach specialist, as well as Riley Grant. I'm not seeing her, she's in the back here. Riley Grant, our communication outreach manager. All here to answer your questions. The project engineers and Chris and Andrea will be at the tables specifically. So we're here tonight to talk about three projects on the list. And this presentation is intended to be a general overview of those projects. And after that, I'm going to adjourn you all to ask specific questions on projects, on all the projects if you want, or maybe a specific table that you're looking to head out to. We're also right in the middle, just so you all know, of our bicycle and pedestrian master plan updates. Those plans were created about a decade ago. We're updating those right now. Andrea is at a table in the back there where she's going to be looking for your input with regards to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan updates. We're just finishing up the pedestrian update. We've got a draft ready to go. We're still taking out input from the community through March. The bicycle update is just getting started. So we're really encouraging you to please let us know all of your thoughts with regards to those plans. And you can do that here tonight or through the email and on the websites. We construct infrastructure projects with city goals, council legacies, strategic commitments in mind. These investments are for public mobility and connectivity options, public safety, and meeting our climate goals, to name a few of the legacies, which have been set by the community and the council. The projects are funded through a variety of ways. These specific projects are funded with our Bellingham Transportation Fund, the Street Fund, as well as some federal grants, Safe Routes to School grants, and state TIB, Transportation Improvement Board money. All of those funds go together to create these partnerships that allow us to construct these multi-million-dollar projects. The Transportation Fund specifically was passed by you, the voters, with 82% of the vote. So we're very thankful for that and allows us to construct a lot of these projects. These projects are all based in the bicycle and pedestrian master plans and called out in there specifically. So the projects we're going to be talking about tonight are the Westside Non-Motorized project, ES 563, ES 560, the Parkview Safe Routes to School project, and ES 561, the West Illinois Multimodal projects. I know getting into the project numbers is a little ingenuity, but I just give those to you because if you go to our website and you're interested in learning more about the projects, those are easy numbers to do a search on to get to the project web pages, which have a lot of information on them. They all have active web pages, and as well, we've supplied QR codes at each of the tables that if you use your mobile device and link onto those QR codes, you'll be taken to some other links. Oops. So the first project, the Westside Non-Motorized project, that's going to be at Chris Como's table tonight, off to my left. This project has a few different components. One of the components includes improvements to 17 intersections and crossings focused mainly on the west side of the city. And 15 of these will be enhanced with rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And I'm just now realizing that I was pointing to Chris, and it's actually Jessica Bennett at the back of the table, back of the room, who's the project engineer on this project and can discuss it in greater detail. All of these crossings were identified in the pedestrian master plan, which was created in 2012. And as you can see, they are basically on the west side of the city, but go from north to south, and there's a few on the other side of the freeway, and we've got lots of details on those. Like I said, 15 of those are going to be in what are called enhanced crossings, which are marked with rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which I will go into more detail a little later on. So another component of this project includes improvements on Eldridge Avenue between Broadway and the Qualicum. This project will add buffered bike lanes to Eldridge together with shared lane markings, also known as SLMs or sharrows. And the sharrows on Victor and West streets are basically marking the bike boulevards. And those are right up here. There are existing sharrows, a bike boulevard along Monroe Street at this point in time. So these additions will complete the bike boulevards identified in the bicycle master plan and connect the bicycle network previously established with on Squalicum Way, and the Illinois Street projects, which I'll be talking about later, will establish bike lanes and create more of our bike network, which will also be connected via these sharrows and these bike boulevards. We're also coordinating with WTA on this project, our local transit authority, to consolidate some bus stops along Eldridge and bring them up with ADA standards to make them easier to access. And finally, at these 4 intersections shown here, Lafayette, Niqualicum, Lafayette, West, and Victor Streets, those crossings, the only marked one out there right now is at Victor at the park. We will actually be marking those 4 crossings as well as installing RRFBs, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons I mentioned earlier, to create those crossings and enhance them, which that will result in between Broadway and Niqualicum, there will be 5 crossings that are either enhanced or a signalized crossing at Broadway that exists right now. So basically, that entire corridor will have crossings about 1,000 feet away from each other. So this is just a cross-section of what the proposed corridor will look like. These are the buffered bike lanes. 5-foot bike lane with a 2-foot buffer, delineators in here, 11-foot drive lanes. We're anticipating that with the basically the buffered bike lanes and the delineators will visually narrow your driving lane. From right now, there's 18 feet per lane from curb to curb. Now, 8 foot of that is a parking lane, but parking is very underutilized out there. And so by installing these, we anticipate that speeds will be reduced over there. And I'll be getting into more of the project and our reporting on that in a little bit. So this is an example of an RFB. Like I said, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. You've seen these, I'm sure, around town. This is the one south of Hagen on Woburn. Come up, hit the button, the yellow lights start to flash. These are not a required stop, like a red light. These are basically a warning for drivers that they should stop. It's required legally to stop for pedestrians at a crossing. This just enhances that more to say vehicles need to stop. But please wait until they have stopped before you step off the curb. This is an example of the sharrow that I was speaking of. These mark our bike boulevards throughout the city, separate from a bike lane, which is a lane specifically for bicycles. A sharrow marks a corridor where bicyclists share the road with vehicles. And basically we put those on low volume roadways, more residential roadways, but they are part of the bicycle network and connect our other enhancements. This is an example of what the buffered bike lanes will look like on Eldridge when we're completed. It's very similar to what happened out at Cordata a couple years ago. We'll have the bike lane separated with the buffer, which is painted on the ground, as well as the vertical delineators, the stanchions. So they're very visual and will keep vehicles out of those bicycle lanes. They're specifically for bicycles. The Eldridge project is planned to be a pilot project. We'll be collecting data. This project will be under construction this summer. Before we go under construction, we will be collecting data on volumes and users, bikes and vehicles, pedestrians, as well as speeds. We'll also be collecting that data quarterly, and we'll be reporting back to council on the outcome of this project. Has it resulted in our expectation of reduced speeds? And we'll need to report back on that. There will be links on our website when this project is underway, email lists, as well as we'll be looking for input from the users of this corridor or the residents out there. We value that information because that's what we need to report back to council on, and it helps us design projects in the future. The next project is the Parkview Elementary Safe Routes to School project. And this project includes sidewalk improvements on Coolidge, Cornwall, Indiana, and Villette Streets, and new bike lanes on Illinois between Sunset and Peabody. We'll also tee up or make perpendicular the intersection of Indiana and Cornwall Streets. That's that sweeping curve there right now. And we just want to tee it up like a typical intersection, slow people down, put a sidewalk and stop signs in there, make it a little bit safer. Additionally, we're going to install a roundabout at Sunset, Coolidge, in Illinois. This is that odd 5-leg intersection in the city where 2 of the legs are basically controlled, either one way or bikes only. We'll be installing a roundabout there. We've also got an RFB to install at Villette Street, and we'll be revising a number of the curb ramps at Cornwall and Illinois. That intersection, we'll be installing smaller radii in there to get rid of some of those sweeping curves and slow down the turning traffic at that intersection. These improvements are all designed and constructed, like I say, as part of the Safe Routes to School program, which is a granting program offered by the federal government. These improvements are done in partnership with the school district, and we partner up on those to apply for the grants. They fund partially the money, and the city comes to the table with money. We get the federal government to come to the table with money, and then we make projects like this happen. I want to be really clear that the Safe Routes to School is a funding program, and it's the title of this project. These are all done on the school district's designated walking routes, which they're obligated to produce for all of their schools in the district, which is showing a 1-mile walking radius to the school. These improvements will provide sidewalks, bike lanes, and various other amenities on those designated walking routes. The Safe Routes to School is a funding program, and I just want to be really clear about that. We're not creating safe routes to school. I can't do that. That's all kind of a subjective thing. So just a couple of examples. I'm sorry, you know what? I'm going to go back here for a second. One of the other things we're doing is the existing crossing out there on Cornwall at the entrance to the school district. We're going to turn that crossing into a speed table, which is an elevated crosswalk. You've seen that if you've been down to the waterfront area when we constructed Laurel Avenue. That's an elevated crosswalk, a speed table, which basically provides crossing at grade at the curb level and slows vehicles down. Not as harsh as a speed bump, more like a speed hump, but just an elevated crossing. Additionally, this is where that crossing will go. This is that entrance, what I talked about in terms of teeing up that Indiana-Cornwall intersection, just making it perpendicular, so it'll be stop controlled on the Indiana leg of it, and then we'll have the sidewalks and curb ramps and crosswalks completed in there. I also talked about the roundabout at Illinois and Sunset. That's, like I said, it's a little bit funky. It's not a true circular roundabout, but we have to do different things when we've got 5 legs at an intersection, and that will be under construction with this project. Last project I'm going to talk about here is our West Illinois Multimodal Improvements project, ES 561. So this project extends the bike lanes that we're constructing with the Parkview Elementary Safe Routes to School project, and this will take them, that project ends at Peabody. This project will take those bike lanes through Meridian up to Lynn Street on Illinois. We'll also install sidewalk on Illinois where there are current gaps and missing portions of sidewalk out there. We've got a mini roundabout planned at the intersection of Meridian and Illinois to replace that signal. We'll also install RFBs at crossings at Oregon, North, and H Streets on Meridian, as well as bicycle infrastructure along Meridian on that Meridian-Girard corridor to the south. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit to talk about these various sections because it's kind of spread out and hard to see. The bike infrastructure on Meridian-Girard corridor, the bike lanes are being added on Meridian north of Illinois Street up here. They will actually be sharrows to the south of Illinois going through Girard into the Civic Center. The main reason for that is because that is the Fountain Urban Village, the Fountain District Urban Village. So they've got different rules. They've got the retail on the first floor, which means they need parking at the curbside. And so we don't have any room to put bike lanes in there, but it will be connected via the Sharrows and a bike boulevard through the district in there. Additionally, we've got kind of what I mentioned at the first project. The Westside Non-Motorized project will install Sharrows along Victor Street from Eldridge, going all the way up to Illinois. Once that project is done, along with this project, basically there will be bicycle infrastructure connecting much of our city and implementing much of our bicycle master plan. You can get on a bike on the north side of Lake Whatcom in the Britain area, almost at the eastern city limits, and ride on trails or bike lanes or bike boulevards all the way to the west side of the city, heading down to Squalicum Parkway, or getting on Eldridge and heading into downtown, or out to Whatcom County along Marine Drive in bicycle facilities. That's one of the things we're really excited about, is just those connections that we're making. This is further down the Girard. We will pick up the bike lanes again south of Broadway and take those all the way into the Civic Center to make those connections. And then finally we've got the mini roundabout, and I'm sure a lot of you are out there thinking, wait a second, how are they going to put a roundabout at Meridian, Illinois? There's way too small in there. This is a mini roundabout, and which basically means it's got a much smaller interior diameter. It's single lane traffic around it. It's not the roundabouts you're used to seeing on Cordata or out at Northwest or Wharf Street. This roundabout, we are restricted by the amount of right-of-way. The buildings on the west side of this intersection are right at the property line. There is no more right-of-way available. So we are going to install this roundabout to take down the signal, and eliminates the maintenance of that. We also, with the roundabout, we move the crossings further away from the intersection, reducing those conflicting turn movements, making safer crossings out there. And we expect it to function very well and keep all modes of traffic moving through that intersection. And that's really it for the general presentation. Thank you very much for your time. We're going to leave this screen up. This is a QR code that can give you more information about all of these projects, utilized on your mobile devices. And then, like I said, we've got tables throughout the room. We've got our project engineers, transportation planner. Eric and I are going to be wandering, so please come and ask any general questions you may have. If you've got specific questions about the projects, I really encourage you to go to the tables, and we're here as long as you've got questions to ask. So, thank you.